Welcome to Close Listening. I'm your host, Zach Morgenstern, and I'm joined by my silent co-host, Ludwig von B. Today's record is Beautiful Noise, Neil Diamond. So the day before I recorded this, it was Neil Diamond's 80th birthday. I wanted to listen in to something new to celebrate. I've actually listened to this record once before, and there's some really great tracks on it. I found it very pleasant to listen to, but there was also a lot I didn't remember about it. And I think that makes sense, having listened to it a second time. But for starters, it is a beautiful visual album. I just noticed this spread inside, this colorful yet sort of not too far from realist depiction of a gritty New York of the nights of the 1970s, you know, something kind of out of a Scorsese movie of the period. And Neil Diamond is not really someone I think of as an album singer, by which I mean it doesn't come across as if he comes up with a concept and a cool visual design and the songs all build some world together. You know, for the most part, his albums just have a picture of his face on them, and they just seem like collections of songs he put out at the time, which is fine. But I kind of like it better when there is some vision in an album project. And if any Neil Diamond album has that vision, it's Beautiful Noise. And as the guy who wrote the AllMusic review likes to point out, there's clearly some ambition because it announces its producer on the front, and it's the band's Robbie Robertson. It's kind of like written by Neil Diamond, directed by Robbie Robertson, epic all-star duo. Does Robbie Robertson have a big effect on the sound of this album? Well, there's certainly more electric guitars. You have some of Garth Hudson of the band playing organ on it. Maybe the drums are a little louder in the mix, but it's still a very poppy orchestral production. It doesn't really sound like a band record. So Neil Diamond, he's not an albums guy. He's not someone who, you know, comes up with these grand visions, but this is one of the exceptions. And I think the problem is it's a bit too much of an exception. It seems like Neil Diamond really wanted to make this record about the city. And he has some great songs on there, but I think wanting to stick to the theme also meant that there are some less than great songs here. So let's go through the songs. The opening track, the title track, Beautiful Noise, you know, that remains a staple in Neil Diamond sets to this day. It was inspired, I believe, by one of his children reacting to a parade, and it starts with some sort of non-musical noise building up to fanfare with Garth Hudson's organs. It's never the most interesting Neil Diamond song, never the most heartfelt, but it sort of repeats that sort of build-up chorus formula that worked in Sweet Caroline, and it's plenty nice to listen to. The next song on the album is one of the underrated Neil Diamond gems. It's called Stargazer. And, you know, it very much fits into this city, this New York City theme, this making it as a young songwriter, Neil Diamond looking back on his past theme. And if you think of it that way, it's kind of a simplistic song. Maybe it's not all-time great, but it has this old-timey band backing. It's not rock, it's not pop, but it has this really poppy lyric. And I don't want to burst your bubble. So I don't know, it's just a lot of fun to listen to, and it's underappreciated, and, you know, it's about, you know, don't get your dreams stuck in the clouds because you'll find some other way to get in trouble. So the next track is Lady-O, and I kind of think of it as John Denver's My Sweet Lady, but with an urban twist. But I'm not sure if Neil Diamond's voice really rises to the occasion. So what I like about Neil Diamond's voice is it has this natural vulnerability, and it works really well with these understated, sensitive love songs from the Brother Loves Traveling Salvation Show Sweet Caroline period. Songs like Juliet, If I Didn't Know Your Name, and The Grass Don't Pay Your Mind. And there's just something about Lady-O that, you know, it's a tad more ambitious than those songs, but Neil Diamond, he doesn't add more expression to his voice, so his natural, beautiful, awkward side disappears, and it just sounds kind of stilted. The next song is Don't Think Feel, and I describe this one as interesting. So there are things about it that are a bit off-putting, but overall it's pleasant to listen to, and it's kind of fun to listen to. It opens out with this, you know, slightly too loud flute. It kind of reminds me of turning around on a steamboat in a theme park or something. It's basically a dance song with intentionally live the simple life lyrics. Don't need plans to clap your hands. And I think the production is a bit big, a bit orchestral for a sort of groovy dance song, but, you know, that makes it memorable, and, you know, it won't be the greatest hit, it won't be your favorite song on the album, but it's positive, it's one of the good parts of the listening experience. Now, I think where the Neil Diamond awkwardness on this album perhaps hits its low is a song called Surviving the Life. So when you look at the spread inside this album, you see Neil Diamond here next to all these colorful characters. He's kind of hiding. He's in his black suit, and I can't really tell what he's going for. He sort of looks like a rockabilly here, but he has his long 60s, 70s hair, and he has this look that it's kind of confident, kind of cool, but it's not Fonzie. It's not over the top. He's just sort of in between things. He doesn't really know what part he's playing and how to play the part. And I think with Surviving the Life, he doesn't say the life as if it has some coded meaning, like he knows what it means. It sounds like he's just copying an expression. And I think one of the challenges for Neil Diamond is that even though he's someone who, especially from 1972 with Hot August Night onwards, became a really confident stage performer, I'm not sure if he ever got over his initial shyness. He talks about, with his song I Am, I Said, one of the all-time great Neil Diamond songs, how difficult it was to write because it's so personal. And indeed, it's a song of the personal nature, but it really doesn't feel like it's exposing any intimate details. He sort of says it was difficult to feel caught between the worlds of New York and LA, and he feels lonely, he feels empty sometimes, and I mean, I assume the mental health conversation was different in the early 70s than it is now, but still, it doesn't feel like very difficult things to say. And I think the struggle with Neil Diamond on this record is he both has the ambition to make this concept album, and he's someone who's just not very comfortable making much of a statement. And you kind of have to choose. If you want to be profound lyrically, if you want to speak to themes, you have to be willing to think about those themes and say them out loud. You can't just say platitudes like surviving the life if you're not really convinced what the life is. And it's a shame because Neil Diamond grew up on New York. I think he had a bit of a rough childhood in some ways. I'm not exactly clear from the stories. There's some references to gangs. I'm not sure what those gangs really mean and how involved he really was. But he was not a child of privilege. He's not, as one scathing reviewer I read online said, someone who's completely detached and being a phony. But I think his shyness really holds him back with this track. But anyway, as much as I don't like Surviving the Life, there are some interesting musical choices on it. There's some memorable backup singers, including one who sounds kind of like a parody of the woman from Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky. So there are interesting musical moments on this one. And while I'm being critical of a lot of this album, while I think there are not a lot of great songs, compared to other albums I have mixed feelings about, with Neil Diamond at least, it's all pleasant to listen to because the vocals are very articulate, the production is very poppy. The bad songs, the problem with them is you just want them to be better, you just want the lyric to be a little stronger. They're not painful or challenging to listen to. But anyway, side one of the record ends probably with the album's best track and one that Neil has sort of subtly tried to sneak into his greatest hits repertoire. It's called If You Know What I Mean. So in addition to being this broader celebration of the city, Beautiful Noise is about Neil Diamond's journey as a songwriter. So on the back it has this quotation, "Tin Pan Alley died hard, but there was always the music to keep it going." And this song, If You Know What I Mean, it seems to suggest that Neil Diamond has moved into a different phase of his life. He's in his mid-30s at this point, so I don't know if you can really say it's middle age, but this is certainly the start of his mature period, the end of his classic songs, the end of the youthful singer-songwriter, but the nostalgia of this one has a sort of a more broad appeal. When the radio played like a carnival tune, so to the modern listener, we might even think of the radio as a nostalgic object. We think of carnivals as something that go quite far back in human history. There's this line, "Took a swig from a glass of old wine," and there's kind of a double meaning there. There's the sense of, reaching the top, the fanciness of having aged wine, but also the sense that the song Red, Red Wine is now old, that Neil Diamond's early career is 10 years in the past. One thing I find when listening to a great song is you can sometimes just hear little simple things in the production that you didn't notice before, like the bounce and the piano, the little sped up notes. They just blend so well into the mix. So when you give them another listen, you can notice these kind of details. And then it ends with strings that I don't know how to describe it other than saying they kind of sound like a movie soundtrack. So anyway, then you go on to the second side. And, more of these, imperfect songs just trying to fit the theme. There's Street Line. There's Home is a Wounded Heart. That one starts with some nice awkwardness and sincerity. There's sort of a hiccupy, off-rhythmic Neil Diamond opening line that just sounds like something delivered in his kitschy spoken voice, but the song never quite go anywhere. It's part of the theme. It seems to be about the way that rock can destroy romantic relationships because you're too committed to the music, but I don't really know. Then there's Jungle Time, which is the attempt to be rock and roll, but it's really just this genre fusion where you have electric guitars, but they're not really going at a rock beat, and it's raucous, but you don't really get into the lyrics. It just seems to be about the idea of having a swagger. Then there's the song Signs. It adds a sort of mystique to the theme, but the problem is it's all build up and there's not much of a chorus. He just sort of says the word signs and moves on to another verse. Signs like moments hung suspended, echoes just beneath the heart, speak in voices half remembered and half forgotten play their part. Signs that come as we lay sleeping, left behind for our keeping. Signs. So potential building up stops with signs. Because again, I think Neil Diamond, he just had a very hard time, committing to really saying something beyond just speaking from the heart. Now that said, again, the end of the second half of the record ends quite epically with Dry Your Eyes, which I believe was written about the Kennedy assassination and the King assassination, just this sense of loss in the 60s. And it's the one song in this record that's not really part of the theme, and it feels like it's starting to be about something. It's not a bold political statement per se. It brings everyone from the political left to political moderates to even the political center-right together. But it has this unique circular structure to it. There's enough lyric that they're interesting and they're memorable. This was the track that Neil Diamond played live with the band in their last Waltz concert. And, his voice gets to have a bit of its schmaltz in it, but the song justifies it. It's a good song. It's a good way to end the album. So overall, Beautiful Noise has 4 pretty good to great tracks in Beautiful Noise, Stargazer, If You Know What I Mean, and Dry Your Eyes. And I would add Don't Think, Feel. So overall, it's a solid album, and it's maybe the most interesting conceptually of the Neil Diamond albums. Is it past his prime? I think so. And after this, you see Neil Diamond retreat more and more into just sentimental ballads that don't necessarily have a memorable lyrical hook, because perhaps as he fixed his shyness about performing on stage, it left more reason not to address the shyness about saying anything. I don't know. But, Neil Diamond is one of my musical heroes, but you have to be honest, not every song by one of your musical heroes is great, but it's a pleasant album to listen to. It's got some great songs on it. You should check it out. This is Zach Morgenstern and Ludwig von B. from Close Listening. See you next time.